never thought 1 month could feel like a lifetime. And yet, as I watched him walk away that gray morning, the weight of our promise felt like a leaden chain around my chest. Remember, just 30 days. I had whispered, voice cracking despite my attempt at a confident smile. He had nodded, eyes wide, lips pressed together, as if bracing himself for some storm I wasn't entirely ready to unleash. I knew him too well. I knew that even the thought of distance would sting him more than it ever could sting me. I also knew I had no choice. It had started as a joke, a strategic lie, if I wanted to be brutally honest. My career was exploding, schedules demanding, and every time I looked at him, I saw the distraction I could not afford. So, I proposed the month-apart plan. Pretend to be indifferent, act like we didn't exist to each other, and then maybe by then would see if what we had was strong enough to survive the simplest test. Absence. He had smiled, trembling slightly, and said, "Okay, I'll try." I wanted to laugh at his bravery or perhaps his foolishness. I wanted to tell him that he wouldn't survive this, that pretending to forget me would feel like swallowing broken glass every second. But I didn't. I let him believe he could handle it. The first day was deceptively easy. I threw myself into my work, buried under deadlines and endless meetings. My phone remained silent for hours, and when it buzzed, I made sure to delay my response. The rational part of me thought this was for the best. Both of us needed the space to breathe. But by nightfall, when the city lights blurred past my apartment window and the faint hum of traffic filled the air, I realized something terrifying. I missed him with a clarity that hurt. I remembered the way he laughed when I teased him about his terrible coffee-making skills. The way his fingers fit perfectly in mine when we walked down crowded streets. The way he had leaned into me that one cold night on the rooftop, forehead resting on my shoulder, whispering secrets only the stars could hear. And suddenly, the apartment felt empty, hollow, too quiet. I ignored the messages piling up on my phone, the ones I was supposed to reply to casually, nonchalantly. Couldn't. Every notification made my chest ache. Every word I typed, then deleted, felt like betraying the promise I had made. Meanwhile, I knew he was hurting too. The subtle signs were everywhere. Mutual friends' stories about him staring blankly at his phone, walking around the city like a ghost. A text I accidentally glimpsed one evening. I didn't realize missing someone could feel like bleeding. I wanted to call him immediately, to tell him he was overreacting, that a month wasn't forever, that I was coming back. But the cruel logic of the plan kept me from doing so. Every day he suffered, felt like a blade twisting in my gut. By the third day, I was obsessed with tracking him, under the guise of casual encounters. Coffee shops, parks, the small library we had loved together. I lurked on the edges of his world, careful never to reveal myself. Watching him, seeing the subtle slump of his shoulders, the way he avoided mirrors as if confronting his own sadness, I realized how selfish I had been. I wanted to throw the plan away, to tell him everything, to collapse into his arms and apologize for every second of suffering I had caused. But then I remembered our promise, the fragile foundation of trust we had built. Breaking it prematurely felt like ruining a carefully painted masterpiece with a single impatient stroke. He didn't text me for hours anymore, and when he did, his words were clipped, careful, almost mechanical. I could feel the walls he was building around his heart. And the thought of him closing me out, and Tyrelia thought I could not endure, drove me to the brink. One night, after an unbearably long day, I found myself standing outside his apartment. Rain soaked my jacket, plastered my hair to my forehead, but I didn't care. I could hear muffled sobs through the cracked window. My chest tightened, each beat pounding like a drum of guilt and longing. I wanted to burst in, shout, cry, beg him not to hurt this way. But I stood frozen, the distance we had promised looming larger than ever. Finally, he appeared at the doorway, hair damp, eyes red and glistening. His lips trembled. He looked at Menet with anger, not with resentment, but with an ache so profound it made my knees weak. I thought you didn't care," he whispered, voice breaking, "that this month was supposed to mean nothing." I swallowed hard, choking on the words I had rehearsed 100 times but now seemed impossible to speak. I never meant for you to feel this way," I confessed. "Every moment apart, I've been dying inside." His knees buckled slightly, and without another word, he fell into me. Our embrace was desperate, clinging, a collision of everything we had tried to deny. Rain soaked us through, but neither of us noticed. The world outside ceased to exist. He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes, searching, needing reassurance. "Promise me, no more pretending," he whispered. I nodded, heart racing. "I promise. Never again." And in that moment, amid the rain and the glow of the street lamp, everything, the pain, the distance, the promises collapsed into something soft, intimate, and achingly beautiful. We didn't speak for a while, just held each other, letting the warmth of shared existence melt the frost that the month of separation had built. And I realized, with a clarity I had feared too late, that love wasn't about tests or plans. It was about presence, the simple act of being there for each other, through every storm, every heartache. I thought of all the days we had lost to pride, fear, and ambition. I vowed silently, as he buried his face into my chest, that I would never let him feel that kind of absence again, not for a month. Not for a day, not even for an hour. The city moved on around us, indifferent, chaotic, but for once, it didn't matter. We had each other, raw, vulnerable, and impossibly close. And for the first time in 30 long days, I felt whole again. The morning after our reunion, sunlight spilled into his small apartment like it had a purpose, illuminating the chaos of a life I had neglected for 30 days. Coffee cups, half-read books, and scattered music sheets littered the table. I watched him move around with quiet efficiency, still avoiding eye contact, as though the raw intimacy of the previous night had left him both comforted and wary. "I made breakfast," he said, voice tentative, finally meeting my gaze. His eyes were soft, yet a flicker of caution lingered, a shadow from the month of pretended indifference. I smiled, weakly, because everything about him, every gesture, every glance was magnified in significance after the pain we'd endured. I moved closer, almost afraid he would retreat, but he didn't. He let me. Sitting together at the tiny kitchen table, I noticed how much I had missed the mundane details. The way he stirred his coffee absent-mindedly, the slight crease between his brows when he focused on a crossword puzzle, the small, almost imperceptible sigh when he finally settled into a chair. These were moments of him I had taken for granted, and now, every one felt precious. I'm sorry," I muttered, finally, breaking the fragile silence. "For everything. For leaving you like that. For pretending." He tilted his head, searching my face. "You needed that month, right?" His voice was soft but edged with vulnerability. "To figure things out." I nodded, though my throat felt tight. "I thought I did. But, seeing you hurt like that, it wasn't worth it. I thought I could protect us from distraction, from the chaos of life, but all I did was hurt you." He blinked, lips pressed into a thin line, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Outside, the city roared on, indifferent, but in this tiny apartment, time had slowed, as if the universe itself were allowing us a pause to catch our breath. Finally, He exhaled. You scared me, he said. And there it was, the raw honesty I had dreaded. I felt like you were slipping away, and I couldn't do anything about it. I don't want to pretend anymore, either. Not even for a day. I reached across the table, my fingers brushing his, careful and deliberate. He didn't pull away. He let me hold him. Never again, I whispered. We face everything together. The tension eased slightly, but the memory of the past month lingered like a shadow, making our closeness simultaneously sweet and precarious. We decided to spend the day together, deliberately simply walk through the park, a shared lunch at a small diner, a casual visit to his favorite bookstore. Even mundane activities were loaded with emotion. Every laugh we shared, every accidental touch, every whispered word carried the weight of 30 days of longing and absence. The city around us felt more vibrant, more alive, but it was as if the world itself existed solely to reflect the intensity of what we were feeling. Later, as we walked along the river, the sun dipping low, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, I noticed how he kept glancing at me, eyes shimmering with a mixture of joy and residual fear. Do you think we can survive this? He asked quietly. I stopped walking, pulling him gently close, forehead resting against his. We've already survived it, I said, voice firm yet tender. We stumbled, we hurt, but we came back. That means we can survive anything. He leaned into me, letting out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. I don't want to lose you. Not ever. You won't, I said, brushing a strand of damp hair from his face. I swear. We'll figure this out. Together. The days that followed were an intricate dance of reconnection. We talked endlessly, about everything and nothing. He recounted his days without me, his quiet struggles and the moments he had nearly given in to despair. I shared mine, the pressures, the isolation, the gnawing guilt of seeing him suffer. Each conversation was a thread, weaving us closer, knitting the frayed edges of our bond into something stronger than before. One evening, as we sat on the rooftop of his apartment building, the city lights flickering like distant stars below, he rested his head on my shoulder. The soft weight of his presence was grounding, comforting, yet filled with unspoken yearning. I missed this, he murmured. I missed you. Every little thing. I wrapped an arm around him, holding him close. I missed you too. More than I can say. I think I realized that nothing in the world matters as much as thesis. The intimacy between us deepened not in grand gestures, but in small, significant ways. A hand brushing against mine while we cooked, fingers tangling under a shared blanket, quiet whispers in the dark. Each touch was a reaffirmation, promise, a way of saying we were here, fully, completely, for each other. Yet, shadows of fear and insecurity lingered. I could see it in his eyes, the lingering worry that I might leave again, that distance or circumstance could fracture us once more. And every time I sensed it, my heart clenched. I wanted to reassure him endlessly, to erase every scar the past month had left on his soul. One rainy afternoon, we found ourselves stuck in his apartment during a sudden storm. The rain battered the windows, filling the room with the rhythmic, hypnotic sound of droplets. We sat close on the sofa, knees touching, bodies brushing. I hate this, he said suddenly, voice trembling. I hate that 1 month ever happened. I hate that I had to feel like losing you was possible. I pulled him into my lap, arms tight around him, letting him bury his face in my chest. I know, I whispered. I hate that too. But it happened. And now we know how much we mean to each other. That's worth something, isn't it? He nodded slowly, voice muffled. It is. It is. We stayed like that for hours, letting the storm rage outside while we clung to each other. Each heartbeat, each shiver, each whispered word was a silent acknowledgement of everything we had endured, and everything we were willing to fight for. Gradually, life began to settle into a new rhythm. We found balance work, social obligations, personal space, but always returning to each other. The memory of the month apart never fully faded, but it became less a wound and more a reminder of our resilience, our vulnerability, and the depth of what we shared. Our love, tested and strained, emerged stronger. Each smile, each touch, each quiet moment together was now infused with a richer, more profound appreciation. We no longer took each other for granted, no longer allowed distance or doubt to seep in unchecked. One night, as we lay entwined on his bed, the city alive below, he turned to me, eyes sparkling despite the late hour. I don't care about pretending anymore. I just want this. Forever. I cupped his face gently, brushing my thumb across his cheek. Forever. I promised. No games. No tests. No pretending. Just us. Always. He smiled then, a slow, genuine smile that reached his eyes and softened every lingering trace of pain. And in that smile, I found the reflection of my own heart finally at peace, finally home. From that day forward, every small moment became sacred. Morning coffees, late-night walks, lazy Sundays spent tangled in sheets. We celebrated the mundane because we knew how fragile joy could be, how easily absence could twist it into sorrow. And though the memory of our month apart occasionally whispered in quiet moments, it no longer carried the weight of despair. Instead, it served as a reminder that love, when tested, could endure, could heal, and could flourish beyond the constraints of fear and distance. By the time the first anniversary of that painful month arrived, we were sitting on the same rooftop where we had reconciled, hands intertwined, hearts aligned. The skyline stretched before us, a tapestry of possibility and promise. I never want to spend a day without you again, he said softly, leaning into me. And you never will, I replied, pressing a kiss to his temple. Because now, we know the truth. We can face anything, as long as we face it together. We watched the sun dip below the horizon, casting the city in golden light. And as night fell, bringing a cool hush over the streets, I felt a peace I had never known. We had survived pain. We had endured absence. And we had emerged not just unbroken, but stronger, more in love than ever. In the warmth of his arms, with the city alive around us and the night full of possibility, I realized something profound. Love wasn't about perfect timing, or smooth journeys, or avoiding pain. Love was about choosing each other, over and over, through storms, through fear, through distance. Love was about presence, about courage, about the relentless pursuit of being together, no matter the cost. And in that truth, in that quiet, enduring, beautiful moment, I knew we had found forever. The weeks after our reunion passed in a rhythm that was both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because we had each other, finally, fully present. Terrifying because the memory of our separation made every small misunderstanding feel like it could erupt into catastrophe. One evening, we decided to revisit the park where we had first shared our stolen kisses. A quiet place tucked away behind towering buildings, with trees that whispered secrets in the wind. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of early autumn, and the sun filtered through amber leaves, scattering gold on the path. He walked slightly ahead, hands shoved into his pockets, face shadowed with thought. I slowed my pace, watching him, my chest tightening with a mixture of longing and apprehension. I wanted to reach out, touch him, tell him everything would be okay, but the fear of overstepping, of breaking the fragile peace we'd rebuilt, held me back. Finally, he stopped beneath a large oak, looking up at the branches as if searching for answers in the shifting leaves. "Do you ever worry that we might fall apart again?" His voice was soft, hesitant, carrying the echo of the month we had spent apart. I stepped closer, brushing my hand against his arm. "I do," I admitted, "every day. But I also know that we're stronger now, that what we have is worth fighting for." He turned, eyes locking with mine, searching for sincerity. I saw the faint quiver in his lips, the vulnerability he usually hid behind quiet humor and sharp wit. I can't bear the thought of losing you, even for a moment." "You won't," I promised, pulling him into a hug. He leaned into me, resting his forehead against my chest, and I could feel the tremor in his body. The weight of the past month had left traces, invisible scars that we were now learning to navigate together. After a moment, he pulled back slightly, hands gripping my jacket. "I need to know that you'll always fight for us," he said, eyes intense, unwavering. "I will," I said firmly, cupping his face. "Every single day. No pretending, no games. Just us. Together." We spent the rest of the afternoon walking slowly through the park, talking about everything and nothing. We shared dreams, fears, and small anecdotes from our separate months. Each story, each laugh, each accidental brush of hands was a stitch, mending the invisible rips left by our absence. By the time we reached the small pond at the heart of the park, the sun was low, painting the water in shades of pink and gold. He sat on the edge, feet dangling above the water, and I knelt beside him. "Do you remember the first time we came here?" he asked softly. "Of course," I replied, smiling at the memory. "You insisted we feed the ducks, even though you were terrified they'd attack you." He chuckled, a soft, warm sound that made my chest ache. "I was scared, but you were there, and I felt safe." "Exactly," I said, taking his hand in mine. "That's what matters. Feeling safe, feeling seen, feeling loved." He squeezed my hand, eyes glistening. "I want that, always, even when life gets complicated." "I know," I said, "and you'll have it. I promise." Later that week, we faced our first real test since reconciling. My career demanded a sudden trip out of state, 2 weeks of intense schedules, meetings, and travel. The thought of leaving him even temporarily sent a shiver down my spine. "I can't believe this is happening again," he said the night before my departure, voice tinged with worry. "I thought we were past this." "We are," I interrupted gently, taking his face in my hands. "But this is different. I'm not asking you to pretend anymore. I'll call, text, video chat. I'll be with you, even from afar. We don't need to suffer in silence this time." He nodded slowly, but I could see the unease lingering in his eyes. I hate being apart, even for a day." "I know," I said softly, "and I hate it too. But we've learned how to survive distance without losing each other. Trust me. Trust us." The morning I left, he hugged me tightly, lingering in the embrace as if trying to memorize every contour, every heartbeat. "Be careful," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "I will," I replied, pressing a kiss to his temple. "And I'll be back before you even notice I'm gone." During the trip, every spare moment I had was spent thinking about him. Hotel rooms and business meetings blurred together, but his image remained vivid in my mind. the way his hair fell across his forehead, the gentle curve of his smile, the warmth of his presence that I carried like a secret talisman. We texted constantly, but even that wasn't enough. The screen couldn't replicate the intimacy of touch, the comfort of shared silence, the small gestures that made love tangible. I missed him desperately, and I knew he felt the same. Midway through the trip, exhaustion and longing collided. I found myself wandering the streets of a foreign city, phone clutched tightly, staring at his last message. "I can't wait until you're back. I hate this distance." A wave of guilt and longing washed over me. I realized then that absence didn't build character or test love, it merely revealed the depth of what we already felt. And the depth was terrifying in its intensity. When I finally returned, the airport was bustling, but I pushed through the crowd with a singular focus: him. And there he was, waiting by the gate, scanning every arriving passenger until our eyes met. Relief, joy, and something like awe lit his face. I ran to him, and without a word, he wrapped his arms around me. The world outside ceased to exist, only the rhythm of our hearts, the press of bodies, the whisper of breath. "I missed you so much," he murmured against my shoulder. "I missed you more," I said, voice breaking. "And I promise, never again will I leave you feeling like this." The days that followed were a blur of reconnection, of rediscovering the comfort of our shared life. We cooked together, went for long walks, and stayed up late into the night talking and laughing, exploring the nuances of each other's minds and hearts. Yet, beneath the surface, tension lingered, the fear that life's unpredictability could tear us apart again. We learned to communicate better, to share our fears without judgment, to support each other even when words failed. One evening, as autumn deepened, we sat on the balcony of his apartment, watching the city glow in the twilight. I wrapped an arm around him, pulling him close. "Do you feel safe now?" I asked quietly. He leaned into me, nodding. "Yes, I feel safe with you, and I feel loved. Truly." "Good," I said softly, "because that's all I want, to make you feel loved. Every day, in every way I can." He rested his head on my shoulder, fingers intertwined with mine. "You've done that, and more." The city lights shimmered around us, a mosaic of life and possibility. In that moment, I realized how far we had come from the pain of separation, through fear and longing, to this fragile yet powerful serenity. I pressed a kiss to the top of his head, heart full. "We survived the storm," I murmured. "And now we get to enjoy the calm. Together." He sighed, a sound of contentment and relief. "Together," he echoed. The wind whispered through the balcony, carrying with it the promise of countless tomorrows. And for the first time since our month apart, I believed wholeheartedly in the enduring strength of love, in the beauty of shared presence, and in the joy of a heart fully known and accepted. The following weeks carried a quiet intensity. Life began to regain a sense of rhythm, yet the echoes of the past month lingered like a delicate scar, always present, never quite fading. We moved through our days with a careful awareness of each other, attuned to the subtle shifts in mood, the silent pleas for reassurance hidden in fleeting glances or hesitant touches. One evening, I found him sitting at his piano, fingers hovering over the keys but not pressing them. The faint light from the city outside the window traced the sharp lines of his jaw and the curve of his shoulders. His posture was tense, thoughtful, an unreadable expression I had learned to interpret over months of intimacy and heartache. "You're thinking again," I said softly, stepping closer. He glanced up, eyes meeting mine with a trace of guilt. "I can't help it," he admitted. "Sometimes I worry, what if we drift apart again? Even with all this closeness." I shook my head, moving behind him to wrap my arms around his torso. We won't, I said firmly, resting my chin on his shoulder. Every moment we spend apart, every trial we face, only proves that we're stronger together. Don't let fear take away what we fought to reclaim. He leaned into me, a small sigh escaping him. I don't want to feel that kind of loneliness again. Not for anything. I know, I murmured, brushing my lips along the curve of his neck. And you never will. I promise. He finally turned, hands finding mine, fingers interlocking with a familiarity that spoke volumes of our bond. Promise me, he said, voice low and urgent, that we'll always fight for this. No pretending, no avoiding, no distance, no more games. I promise, I replied, pressing my forehead to his. No more games. Just us. Always. That night, we fell asleep entwined on the couch, the soft hum of the city below lulling us into a fragile peace. Dreams carried fragments of the past month our separation. The silent suffering, the desperate longing but waking to each other erased the fear, replacing it with the warmth of presence. In the following days, we embraced a new rhythm. Mornings began with shared coffee, lingering touches, and soft laughter. We walked through the bustling streets of New York hand in hand, letting the energy of the city surround us, blending our private happiness with the pulse of life around us. Yet, life continued to challenge us. Work deadlines, family obligations, and social responsibilities crept in, threatening to fragment our bubble of intimacy. Each time, we navigated the obstacles with careful communication, leaning on one another, reinforcing the trust and connection that had been tested to its limits. One Saturday, he invited me to a secluded rooftop garden he had discovered months ago. It was a hidden oasis amidst the chaos of the city, with flowering plants, soft benches, and a quiet fountain trickling gently. The air smelled faintly of jasmine, and the soft wind played through the leaves, carrying with it a sense of serenity I had rarely experienced in the city. I thought you'd like it, he said, eyes glinting with quiet pride. A place where we can be, just us, away from everything else. It's perfect, I whispered, pulling him into a hug. Just like you. We spent hours there, talking about everything: hopes, fears, dreams, and regrets. We laughed over small memories, shared quiet moments of reflection, and sometimes just held each other in silence, letting the stillness speak volumes. As dusk fell, painting the sky in shades of pink and lavender, he rested his head against my chest. I never want to take this for granted again, he murmured. Every day with you feels fragile, but beautiful. Every day is precious, I said softly, brushing my fingers through his hair. And I'll do everything I can to make sure we never forget that. The emotional intimacy we shared deepened, extending beyond words. Small gestures, a hand brushing against mine while cooking, the gentle press of lips against a temple. The quiet comfort of shared silence became our language, a way to communicate love and reassurance without the risk of misunderstanding. Despite this growing closeness, moments of insecurity occasionally surfaced. He would flinch when I mentioned future plans that might require travel, or hesitate when I suggested changes in routine. I learned to approach these moments with patience, offering reassurance, grounding him in the security of our bond. One rainy evening, we found ourselves stranded in a small cafe during a sudden storm. The rain pounded against the windows, drumming a relentless rhythm that mirrored the tension we sometimes felt when life intruded upon our intimacy. We sat close, sharing a single blanket, sipping hot chocolate, the warmth between us a silent barrier against the chill outside. I hate this, he admitted suddenly, voice barely above a whisper. I hate that life sometimes makes us feel apart, even when we're together. We can't control everything, I said gently, pressing a hand to his. But we can choose to be present, to be there for each other. That's what matters. He leaned against me, eyes closing, letting out a breath of relief. I don't want to feel that kind of fear again. You won't, I said firmly, holding him close. I'll never let you feel alone. Not now. Not ever. The storm continued outside, relentless and unforgiving. But inside the cafe, we created our own sanctuary. Every touch, every word, every quiet moment of understanding strengthened the foundation of our relationship. We were learning not just to survive together, but to thrive, to find joy even in the midst of life's unpredictability. As weeks turned into months, the memory of our month apart became less a wound and more a testament to the resilience of our love. We celebrated small victories, finishing work projects, conquering personal fears, discovering new corners of the city together. Each triumph, no matter how minor, was a reminder of what we had fought for and what we now cherished. One night, as autumn deepened into winter, we returned to the rooftop where we had reconciled. The city below glimmered with lights, a vast expanse of possibilities. We stood together, hands intertwined, hearts aligned, gazing out at the skyline. I never want to spend a day without you again, he said softly, leaning into me. And you never will, I replied, pressing a kiss to his temple. We've learned too much, suffered too much, to ever let that happen. Together, we can face anything. He smiled, a slow, genuine smile that illuminated his face and erased the lingering shadows of fear. Together, he echoed, and the word became a vow, promise, a binding truth. The city around us pulsed with life, but for once, we were detached from its chaos. We had found something permanent, unshakably a love forged in absence, tempered by longing, and strengthened through unwavering commitment. I wrapped my arms around him, holding him close as the cold wind brushed against us. We survived the storm, I murmured, and now, we get to enjoy the calm, the warmth, the simplicity of being together. He rested his head against my chest, fingers entwined with mine. I never want to forget how fragile happiness can be, he whispered, and I never want to forget what it feels like to be with you. Then let's make every day count, I said, voice firm yet tender. Let's treasure each other, never take this for granted, and always fight for us. As night fell over the city, we stayed on the rooftop, hearts beating in unison, minds at peace, souls entwined. The memory of separation, of pain, of longing, lingered only to remind us of the strength we had found, the depth of our love, and the beauty of a connection that had endured and emerged stronger than ever. We had faced absence, fear, and heartache, and we had come out whole, resilient, and infinitely closer. Together, we had discovered that love was not a simple path, but a journey of shared vulnerability, unwavering support, and relentless devotion. And in the quiet glow of the city lights, wrapped in each other's arms, I knew without doubt, this was our forever, a love unbroken, unshakable, and endlessly cherished. Winter settled over the city like a soft blanket, dusting streets and rooftops with frost. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of roasted chestnuts from street vendors and the faint tang of exhaust from taxis weaving through crowded avenues. Despite the chill, we found warmth in each other, in the small, quiet moments that had become the lifeblood of our renewed connection. One evening, after a long day at work, I found him sitting on the sofa in his apartment, wrapped in a thick blanket, staring at the softly glowing Christmas lights we had hung on the balcony. The city twinkled beyond the glass, a reflection of our own fragile, yet beautiful, happiness. "You're staring again," I said softly, moving to sit beside him. He shook his head, offering a small smile tinged with something unspoken. "I'm just thinking," he murmured, "about everything, about us." I reached for his hand, holding it in mine. "Good thoughts, I hope." He laughed softly, a sound that carried both relief and lingering tension. "Mostly good. But sometimes, I worry. About the future. About losing what we fought so hard to keep." "You won't lose me," I said firmly, brushing my thumb across the back of his hand. "Not ever. We've learned how to survive distance, uncertainty, and fear, and we've emerged stronger. That means nothing can break us." He leaned into me, resting his head on my shoulder. I hate feeling vulnerable. But with you, I guess I can let myself be." "That's all I want," I whispered. "For you to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel free to be yourself without fear." The night deepened around us, and we stayed entwined on the sofa, sharing warmth and comfort. Outside, the city's hustle faded into a distant murmur, leaving only the quiet intimacy of our shared space. Over the following weeks, our routine solidified. Mornings were filled with shared coffee and gentle teasing. Evenings became times of reflection, laughter, and closeness. We explored parts of the city we had never visited, discovering hidden bookstores, cozy cafes, and quiet parks tucked away from the chaos of urban life. Yet, life was never entirely without challenge. Work obligations, friends' expectations, and family pressures occasionally intruded, testing our patience and our ability to navigate the world together. But each obstacle became a testament to our commitment, a chance to strengthen the trust and intimacy we had rebuilt. One particularly cold evening, he invited me to a small ice skating rink near the river. The rink was sparsely populated, lights strung overhead casting a soft glow on the ice. We rented skates and took tentative steps, wobbling and laughing as we tried to find balance. "You're terrible at this," I teased, steadying him when he nearly fell. "And you're no better," he shot back, laughing. "But at least we're falling together." The metaphor hung between us, bittersweet and poignant. Falling together. That was exactly what we had done during our month apart, falling into despair, falling into longing, and ultimately, falling back into each other's arms with renewed understanding and love. Later, as we sat on the bench by the rink, fingers intertwined, he looked up at me with an intensity that made my heart skip a beat. "Do you think we can last?" he asked quietly, "through everything life throws at us?" "I don't just think," I said, brushing his hair from his forehead. "I know. We've survived separation, distance, and fear. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." He smiled then, a slow, genuine smile that reached his eyes, erasing the shadow of doubt that had lingered for so long. "Together," he repeated, and the word felt like a vow, solid and unbreakable. As winter deepened, the city transformed into a landscape of lights and celebration. We navigated holiday crowds, exchanged small gifts, and spent evenings curled up with blankets and music. Each moment, no matter how ordinary, was imbued with significance because we had learned the fragility of joy and the value of presence. One snowy night, we ventured out for a late walk through the empty streets. Snowflakes danced around us, settling on our coats and hair, creating a magical, quiet world where only we existed. He stopped suddenly, turning to face me, eyes wide and shining. "I don't want to pretend anymore," He whispered, "I don't want any lies, any distance, any masks. Just honest, open, together." "You won't have to," I promised, cupping his face gently. "No pretending, no hiding, no distance. Just us. Always." We kissed then, softly at first, the snow melting on our lips, hearts racing in unison. The kiss deepened, carrying with it months of longing, pain, and love that had been tempered by absence. It was a kiss of reconciliation, of commitment, and of undeniable desire. Afterward, we walked in silence, hands entwined, letting the quiet intimacy speak for us. Every touch, every glance, every breath shared between us reinforced the bond that had survived tests of separation and fear. In the following days, we began to make plans for the future. Not grand declarations or sweeping gestures, but thoughtful steps, trips together, shared living arrangements, discussions about careers and personal goals. Each conversation was a layer, building a foundation for the life we wanted to create, a life rooted in love, trust, and mutual respect. Yet, even as we planned, the memory of our month apart remained a cautionary whisper. It reminded us of vulnerability, of the fragility of connection, and the importance of communication. We were careful, attentive, and deeply aware of each other's needs, fears, and desires. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace in his apartment, the room filled with the soft glow of flames, he rested his head on my shoulder and sighed. "I never want to take this for granted," he murmured. "Every day with you feels precious, and I'm afraid of losing it." "You won't," I said, brushing my fingers through his hair. "We've endured too much to ever lose this. Every moment, every challenge, only strengthens us." He lifted his head to look at me, eyes glistening. "I love you," he said softly, the words carrying weight, honesty, and vulnerability. "I love you too," I replied, pressing a gentle kiss to his lips. "More than I can ever put into words." As winter gave way to the first hints of spring, we continued to build our life together. Our love, once tested by absence and uncertainty, had grown into something resilient and beautiful. We embraced both the ordinary and extraordinary, finding joy in the simplest moments and strength in our shared commitment. We had learned that love was not about perfection or absence of challenge, it was about choosing each other, facing hardships together, and nurturing a bond that could withstand the tests of time, distance, and fear. One crisp morning, as sunlight streamed through the windows of his apartment, he turned to me with a smile that lit up his entire face. "I never want to go through that month apart again," he said, laughter in his eyes. "Nor I," I replied, pulling him close. "But we survived it, and we came out stronger. That's what matters." He leaned into me, resting his forehead against mine. Together, I confirmed, sealing the promise with a kiss. Outside, the city pulsed with life, but inside, we had found something unshakably, a love forged in trial, tempered by longing, and strengthened by unwavering devotion. And as we held each other, the world faded away, leaving only the quiet certainty of being exactly where we were meant to be, together. Spring arrived quietly, softening the edges of the city with warm sunlight and the gentle scent of blooming flowers. It felt symbolic, a renewal not just for the city, but for user relationship, our bond, our hearts. After months of rebuilding, of proving to ourselves that love could survive absence and fear, we had reached a point where every day together was a treasure, not a given. One morning, he appeared at my apartment before I was fully awake. The first light of dawn filtered through the blinds, casting stripes across the room. He stood there, holding 2 cups of coffee, hair tousled from sleep, eyes bright with warmth. "Morning," he whispered, offering me the cup. "Morning," I murmured back, still half in dreams, taking the cup from his hands. "You didn't have to. I wanted to." He interrupted gently, moving closer until he could press a soft kiss to my forehead. "I like mornings with you." We lingered there, the 2 of us sitting on the edge of my bed, sipping coffee, sharing quiet smiles and easy conversation. These small, ordinary moments now felt profound, a testament to the intimacy we had fought so hard to reclaim. Later that day, we walked through Central Park, the air filled with the sound of birdsong and children laughing. The warmth of spring wrapped around us, coaxing smiles and playful gestures. He grabbed my hand impulsively, spinning me in a small circle, laughter spilling from both of us. "You're ridiculous," I said, breathless from laughter, but my eyes sparkled with affection. "And you love it," he teased, pressing a quick kiss to my cheek. "Yes, I do," I admitted, tightening my grip on his hand. The playful moments of joy were interspersed with deeper conversations, the kind that revealed the soul. We talked about fears, dreams, and the future we wanted to build together. I learned things about him that I hadn't known before: how he secretly loved painting despite never finishing a piece, how he kept a tiny notebook of poetry hidden in his jacket pocket, how he feared losing me even though he trusted me completely. "I never thought 1 month could feel like an eternity," he said, voice quiet as we sat on a park bench, watching the water glint in the sunlight. "I felt like I'd lost you forever." "You didn't," I said, brushing my thumb across the back of his hand. "And you never will. We survived that, and it made us stronger. Every tear, every pang of longing, it was proof of how much we mean to each other." He leaned into me, forehead resting against mine. I don't ever want to be without you again." "You won't be," I promised, feeling the weight of the vow settle like a stone in my chest. "We've learned too much, loved too deeply, to ever let distance come between us again." As spring deepened, we began making plans for the future. Not grandiose plans, but intentional ones, moving in together, exploring new cities, nurturing each other's passions. Each step was a joint decision, a reaffirmation of commitment, a pledge that whatever life threw at us, we would face it hand in hand. One afternoon, we found ourselves on the rooftop of his apartment building. The city sprawled beneath us like a living painting. He looked at me with that intensity one had come to adore, eyes bright with hope and determination. "I've been thinking," he said slowly, "about how far we've come, about everything we've survived. And I realized, I want to spend the rest of my life with you." My heart skipped a beat, and the world seemed to pause. "You, what?" I asked, breathless, though my chest already knew the answer I longed to hear. "I want us," he continued, voice steady and unwavering. "No pretending, no tests, no distance. Just us. Forever. Will you stay with me? Always?" I felt tears prick my eyes, overwhelming emotion threatening to spill over. I nodded, unable to speak at first. "Yes," I finally whispered, my voice trembling. "Yes, 1,000 times yes. I'll stay with you. Always." He smiled then, a radiant, triumphant smile, and pulled me into an embrace that seemed to seal every promise, every struggle, every moment we had endured. We held each other tightly, letting the warmth of presence replace the shadows of absence. The following days were a celebration of our love. We shared our joy with friends, subtly weaving the story of our reunion into conversations and laughter. Every touch, every kiss, every shared meal was imbued with significance, a reminder of the trials we had overcome and the depth of our bond. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, we returned to the park where it had all begun. We walked slowly, hands intertwined, savoring the quiet intimacy of the moment. He stopped suddenly, turning to face me. "I love you," he said softly, eyes glistening. "Not just for today, not just for tomorrow, but for every day we have together, no matter what comes." "I love you too," I replied, cupping his face, pressing my forehead to his. More than anything, more than words could ever convey. We kissed then, slowly, deliberately, letting the moment stretch, letting every ounce of longing, every beat of our hearts, every triumph over fear and distance be expressed in that single, perfect connection. As night fell, the city lights twinkled around us, reflecting our joy and the serenity we had fought so hard to achieve. We walked home hand in hand, hearts full, souls intertwined, the cold winter of separation replaced by the warmth of enduring love. Back at his apartment, we curled up together, the world outside fading into a blur of lights and distant sounds. Every heartbeat, every whisper, every gentle brush of fingers against skin reaffirmed what we had discovered, that love, tested by absence and fear, could emerge stronger, more profound, and unbreakable. I pressed a soft kiss to his temple, feeling the steady rhythm of his pulse against mine. "We promised never to pretend again," I whispered. "No pretending," he echoed, voice thick with emotion. "Only us, forever." And in that quiet, unbroken moment, with the city alive around us and the night stretching infinite before our eyes, I truly knew that we had found a love that could endure anything. Every test, every tear, every pang of longing had led us to this, a love resilient, tender, and endlessly cherished. We had survived absence, heartache, and fear. We had learned the value of presence, trust, and unwavering commitment. And now, as we lay together, wrapped in each other's arms, the world could do nothing but watch as our hearts beat in perfect, unshakable harmony. For the first time in a long time, I felt complete. We had found our forever not in grand gestures, not in perfection, but in the quiet, steadfast choice to love, to endure, and to be together. And as sleep claimed us, the last thought that crossed my mind was simple, pure, and certain: we were home, together, always. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.